Okay, so this is the introduction to the pop essay part two. Uh, Now you should have already done this, the part one. You typed into this doc, you took your notes, you figured out a source. Okay, now part two. I'm using a PDF because it's faster on my computer. What you have will look like this, but the font will be different, I think. So everything still applies. Okay, so this is the classwork and homework for today. This is due at the end of today or of the second session, so we can use this stuff at the beginning of next week. Okay, so this is also like the full introduction to the Macbeth essay. And instead of me having a PowerPoint, I'm just going to go through this um, because this is exactly what you'll be seeing. Okay, below is the vague prompt and accompanying ideas for the upcoming essay. Oh, there's a period there. That shouldn't be there. That's a typo. Oops. Read what is below and fill in the charts. So here's our official prompt. Is Macbeth worth studying? The play of Macbeth, not the character. Is the play worth studying? That's the prompt that your whole essay is built upon. Is the play still worth studying? Okay, so the first thing we do, let's rephrase that statement and make it rephrase that question and make it a statement because it's easier to confront that. Rephrase as a statement. You won't be inserting this into your essay, but something like this will be there. Macbeth is still worth studying. Okay, now take that sentence, Macbeth is still worth studying, and take a stance. You're going to defend it, refute it, or qualify it. Defend is agree, refute is disagree, and qualify is, well, kind of, sort of, maybe, maybe not. I kind of have a half and half kind of viewpoint. Okay. Note one, I don't care which one you pick. You will not make me happy or disappointed by picking one. I just care that you argue your topics well. And two, essentially a qualify is a defend with some refute or refute with some qualify. So if we look at like the three-body paragraph model, it's going to be defend, defend, refute, or refute, refute, defend. Some nuanced stuff. So when I say studying, that means spending time and mental effort on the thing. So reading once, watching the movie, or seeing one performance is not studying. Studying is like analysis, what we did in class for a month. I could have put on the movie is 2 hours. I could have put it on, and then we would have been done with it in 3 or 4 days. Is it worth studying? Okay. You need to figure out, does this prompt mean studying in general or just studying in high school? You need to choose that. You need to choose if you're going to put that in your essay. It's worthy of study but not in high school, or it's only worthy of study in high school, or it's not worthy of study at all. Like, you have to figure that out if you're going to add that level or that component to your essay. Are we talking about high school here or just the wide world? And this is very important. Make sure you pay attention to this because someone's going to do this. You can't use these two arguments that I'm about to tell you because they don't actually address Macbeth. They address other issues, and therefore they're different topics. One, Macbeth and Shakespeare in general is too hard to read or the language is too difficult. That's not actually engaging with the text of Macbeth. That's just engaging with things that are old. You can't run with that argument. It's difficult to read because you're not engaging with the text. You're just engaging with a vague idea. So you can't do that. And then two, you cannot do the dead white male argument that there needs to be more diversity in what is studied and therefore valued. So get rid of or devalue the oldest and whitest of authors. And who, of course, is that? It's Shakespeare. You can't use that argument because that argument is not actually engaging with Macbeth. That's an argument against a system. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to deal with the text, the stuff that's in the play Macbeth, not the vague idea of the literary canon and white authors and hegemony and systematic blah, blah, blah. That's not what you're doing. So you cannot run with these two arguments. And if you do, you will get an awful grade on your essay. Okay, then the next part is brainstorming. You don't need a thesis yet. That's on the next step. That's for next week. Now we're brainstorming. So the statement you need to confront is Macbeth is worth studying. Is still worth studying. Fill in this chart to brainstorm. So there's bullet points as you type and hit enter. More bullet points will show up. Any length here. You don't need full sentences. You're brainstorming here. List as many defenses for the prompt that you can. List as many refutations for the prompt as you can. List as many questions or things you're unsure about as you can. And list as many things that you are 100% sure about and unwilling to bend on about Macbeth as you can. So, for example, if like you read the tomorrow speech, you're like, wow, this is the most powerful thing I've ever read. You might put that here because that might be something you could use to build an argument. Or you might have read a section like, this is trash. This is awful. How could this be considered quality? I will never ever call this quality. You could put that here. This stuff you will not bend about. Okay, and then there's a fill in the blank statement here. And you just type into these and it will go. So, as of right now, I think for me, the strongest stance for my essay would be to defend, refute, qualify. Because, and then you give some reasons. This isn't a thesis proposal, you're not held to this. This is just you kind of putting in words how you're feeling now. So part one is figuring out the very, very basics of your argument. The part one of this, or the step one. And the step two is finding your voice. So all the work you did on that part one where you looked at a source and 3 articles from the source and how do these authors write for this source, you're taking all that information and you're basically doing an outline of how you want to write. Not your argument, but your voice. So think of it this way. All authors and all writers take on the role of a character. The character is most often an exaggerated version of the author. It's not always. They embody the character's personality, voice, style, mood, and quirks. This is why, like, an author can write from the perspective of someone that's not themselves. So let's simplify this. The essay that you're going to write, what character will you be embodying for this piece of writing? Describe that character. Is that character biased, objective, resentful, optimistic, anything? I don't need a backstory. My character that I'm kind of pretending to be had a hard life. No. Just the mental stuff. How do they think? Now, this could just be you as you are now. This could be an exaggerated version of you. This could be the version of you that's like when you're angry, the version of you that when you're silly. Like, what kind of character are you embodying? And then, since we're picking a character, is there anything your character is well known for or that you want to try out? These can be uniqueness of form, of content, and or style. Is there anything you want to experiment with? Like, this is the venue for that. This is the freedom. Describe the diction. Again, when you type in the white, you don't need full sentences here. You just need full thoughts. This is basically not even an outline. It's like a brainstorm. Describe the diction or language style you'll be attempting. Produce 10 words to show what the language style you're looking for. Bruh, dude, man. The difference between a lot and much. What tone will you be attempting? Will you be using logos, and to what extent? Ethos to what extent? And pathos to what extent? Then at the bottom of this, I got this right from that book, Beyond Literary Analysis. And what this is, it's like, hey, if you're thinking about who your author is, your audience is, there's things you might want to consider. So do you have an audience that's genuinely interested in Shakespeare? Do you have an audience that's kind of general? They're not really interested in Shakespeare, not on purpose, but they're willing to listen to some Shakespeare analysis. Or they're like young people, Gen Z, or people who really don't care at all about Shakespeare, but they probably should care. Or that you're going to persuade them, or you're going to do the opposite. And then, so there's different strategies here. I'm not going to go over them because you're only going to pick one of these, basically. Or you might do some combination. And this is dependent on your source. So if you're doing BuzzFeed is probably this one, the bottom one. If you're doing the New York Times, it's probably this one, the middle one. If you're doing, someone mentioned Teen Vogue, which I approved. It's probably the bottom one. So that just has some strategies for you that you might want to read before you get to this. And that's the whole introduction to this. This is due on Friday of this week because we're going to use this for next week. Okay? Take care.